Massive breaking news from the Middle East. Israel now conducting, as we speak, a major airstrike against Iran at the heart of its nuclear program. But also they are going after their long-range missile sites. But now the world, especially Israel and American bases in the region, they are bracing for a potential Iranian response. There's a lot to get into. We're going to be joined in a minute by the great one. Well, there he is, Mark Levin. Mark, I want to give a little bit of a commentary into a question and then hand you the ball here, because I think this is very imperative to point out. The world needs to look at this from Israel's point of view. You know, October 7th was orchestrated in part by the Quds forces in Iran and by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards forces. Given a little history here. They are the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. Trey Yanks was talking about a 7-front war. You have Lebanon and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad in the north. You have Gaza. You have Hamas, the equivalent of 40,000 Americans murdered on October 7th. You had murder and rape and torture and kidnapping and beheadings. I've seen the videos. Then they're supplying weaponry to the Houthi rebels. Then the Iraqi and the Syrian militias, et cetera, and Iran firing missiles into this country on its own. They have threatened to wipe Israel off the map. If you look at Axios today, and my sources have confirmed this, that they have been building out these 2,000, pound ballistic missiles with warheads, and even building out and developing new ballistic missiles with a 4,000-pound warhead. There are reports, Axios, 2,000 to 3,000, maybe more. That, to me, represents Plan B. So if you put yourself in Israel's shoes tonight, they are being, all the terror against them, all the threats against them, the head of the snake in all of this, that would be the Iranian regime. They're the ones that have started this. They're the ones fomenting this. They're the ones responsible for all the death, all the destruction. I'll say one last thing. My prediction is Israel will be victorious, as difficult an operation as this will be. I believe Donald Trump, if they dare lift a finger against one American, God help them, he will unleash hell. I would put I put everything I had on that. And the Israelis do deserve our support, and they will have it at the right time, when needed, if necessary. But I will tell you, the world needs to ask itself a question, and I believe I know the answer. I just got back from the Gulf states. I got back from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, and from the UAE. I talked to a lot of people, Mark. They want this regime out. They just don't have the courage to take them on because they fear Iranian hegemony in the region. I'll hand it to you. The Israelis had no choice from my perspective. What's yours?
The Iranians are about to get their asses kicked, and it's been coming since Jimmy Carter. They've slaughtered Americans. They've slaughtered Arabs. They've slaughtered their own people. They think this is Joe Biden's administration, that they would get away with getting nuclear weapons, and then the world would sit there, wouldn't know what to do about it. You talk about ballistic missiles. Israel sees thousands of ballistic missiles. It can't defend against 5,000, 10,000 ballistic missiles. And it's not going to sit there and take it. This Iranian regime is a terrorist Islamist regime. It is an illegitimate regime. It came to power through the point of a gun, and it expects to stay in power with nuclear weapons. Thank God we have Donald Trump as president of the United States. Thank God Israel has Benjamin Netanyahu as the prime minister. And I will say this. If this Islamic terrorist regime touches one hair on the head of an American citizen, they're going to wish they hadn't. And I want you to understand something, Sean. We have hundreds of thousands of American citizens in Israel. We have our experts telling us about our base and so forth. We have hundreds of thousands of American citizens in Israel right now. And so this is a big deal. And I would not ever bet against Israel. I would never bet against the United States of America. And the United States of America, I feel comfortable, I don't have inside information, is watching, is poised, and is prepared. And this Iranian regime, which thinks that Israel should just sit there and take it, even though they have mouthpieces in our own country that have given them aid and comfort, I want the Israeli people to know the overwhelming majority of the American people tonight are rooting for you. We hate this regime too. They've tried to kill the President of the United States. Now, this president, I think, has had enough. This attack, I cannot believe, no inside information would have gone on without us at least getting a wink and a nod. I want the Israeli people to know that. I want the American people to know that we stand on the side of a free people, of a democracy. This tiny little country is now fighting a war for their survival. They're fighting a war for the United States because these intercontinental missiles are meant for us. How do I know? Because the enemy has told us. They're fighting a war for Europe. Europe that keeps trying to destroy this little country through the UN and their own laws and so forth. This tiny little country is fighting a war for the free world against this Islamic Nazi regime that's backed by the communist Chinese, that's backed by the North Koreans, that's backed by the fascist Russian dictator Putin. And we should be supporting Israel every step of the way. I know in America we are. And I predict right now, they had zillions of chances with President Trump, Steve Witkoff. They had zillions of chances to survive, this regime to survive. But they chose not to. You want to know why, America? Because they were always building nuclear weapons, despite what some of the propagandists in our country say. They always wanted them to threaten and destroy the state of Israel and to threaten and potentially destroy the United States. What are we supposed to do? What's Israel supposed to do? Wait till they have nuclear weapons to find out? Well, they're not going to. And these ballistic missiles you speak of, these leakers to Axios, which are just undermining our country, undermining Israel, undermining our president. But these leakers who talk about thousands of ballistic missiles, think about it, America. Let's say a nation in Central America had thousands of ballistic missiles, and they'd already shot some at us. You'd think we'd take kindly to that? And that same nation was within a hair's breadth of having nuclear weapons and building missiles specifically so they can reach us. Do you think we would put up with that for a second? Well, just because Israel is small, they're not going to do it. It's a nation of warriors. Look at this poor country. They've been at war for almost 2 years. They didn't pick a fight. Their people were slaughtered. Look at this poor country having to deal with Iran. We've dealt with these damnable bastards in Iran for half a century since Jimmy Carter let them in. They've killed our people. They've attacked our embassies. They've backed every terrorist attack against the United States of America. Israel wiped out the Hezbollah chieftains who killed American Marines. They did that. Israel wiped out Sinwar and the others who were pushing terrorism against America and funding what's going on our college campuses. Think about what this tiny little country is doing and is up against tonight. Those countries in Europe that are organizing against Israel and want to create a separate Palestinian state, shame on you. You are damnable. You are a disgrace. You should be backing Israel. You should be supporting what they're doing. Just because you sold out your country, just because through immigration you've destroyed your country, doesn't mean Israel should roll over and play dead. The Jews in Israel, some of them survived the Holocaust. Many of them have family members who experienced it. They're not going to do it again. October 7th was the warning cry. Iran was behind it. Iran slaughtered those Jews. Iran did it. Iran slaughtered Americans. Iran did it. Now, Iran's finally, after half a century, going to get their asses kicked. That's my prediction.
Mark, by the way, this is what Israel is reporting. We can't independently confirm that the Chief of Staff, Commander of the Revolutionary Guard, the Secretary of Supreme Council, and others have been taken out, and one of their major nuclear facilities has taken a direct hit, none of which surprises me. I think the most important thing that you said is imagine if this was America. Imagine if we had a Hezbollah to the north, where Canada is, or if we had Hamas to the south, if we had Houthi rebels, if we had other terror groups or neighboring countries all firing missiles into our country. You know, I've been to Israel a number of times, as you know, and I've been in these underground terror tunnels that, you know, that money that should have been spent on hospitals and schools and helping the people in Gaza have better lives, but it wasn't used for that purpose. It was used for terror. I went to the border town, Sderot. You can see with the naked eye Gaza. That one town, when I went there at that time in the previous 10 years, had been hit with 10,000 rockets. And you could see the progression and the size and the lethalness of those rockets as they have evolved over the years, Mark. Kids could not play outdoors in the town of Sderot. They had to play in underground bunker playgrounds because it only took 12 to 13 seconds once a rocket was fired out of Gaza, often using civilians as shields from schools or hospitals. You had 13 seconds to get the kids out of the streets, so they had to play underground in a bunker. That has been their reality. If Americans had to live with that reality, I think they would have a very different perspective. But with all that said, Rasmussen poll, as you know, came out last week. 84% of Americans support Donald Trump ensuring that they don't have nuclear weapons. Looks like Israel has begun that operation tonight, and I do agree with your assessment that the U.S. will be there if needed. I do not believe, for those people that always say, well, this is going to be just like Iraq, it's going to be a long, protracted war. No. The nature of warfare has changed dramatically. I have been saying that the next Yes, the next generation of war will be fought in air-conditioned offices. It's not going to be door-to-door stepping over IEDs without up-armored Humvees like we went to in Iraq. That's not how it's going to happen. Mark, you get the last word. Go ahead.
Real quick. You know who's rooting for Israel? The Iranian people. The Iranian people have been slaughtered, butchered, and tortured. Nobody ever talks about the Persian people who want their liberty. You know who's rooting for Israel? The cowardice Arab countries, except for Qatar, perhaps. They keep their mouths shut and pray to God that the Israelis end this regime. That's the truth. The people in the dungeons and the prisons in Iran, they're rooting for the state of Israel as I speak right now. And we must be and should be too. They take this rash off of the body politic and their nuclear weapons with them. The United States, we can live in peace. At least sleep in peace knowing that that Islamic, Nazi, terrorist regime no longer is a nuclear threat. And that is a big change for our military, for our geopolitical positions, and everything else. It's a big defeat for China, for North Korea, big defeat for Russia, maybe some of the other countries too. But this is an evil, evil regime. And the idea that there are some people who argue, let them have the nukes, we can manage it. What you see on your screen right now, America and Sean, ultimately, believe it or not, is peace. Because when they're done, and hopefully this regime loses its nuclear power and perhaps its head, based on what the Israelis are doing, this will be viewed as one of the greatest acts of preemption for peace in world history. That's what's going on.
Not the first time, Mark. They did it with Iraq, they did it with Syria, and it now became a necessity for them tonight. And frankly, the world has to ask itself, will it be better off? And I did learn in the Gulf, on my trip to the Gulf states, that every one of those countries wants this country neutralized. They don't want a nuclear-armed Iran. All right, the great one, Mark Levin, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.